Alrighty, we're a good morning and a happy Wednesday, January the 11th of 2023. Welcome to another episode of the Throw-In with Justin, available here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube level. If you guys are just joining us in, thank you. Normally our programs are from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. At least that is what we are trying to follow through and be consistent with. But what's so great about it, and what's so great about doing a show from home in the luxury of your own living room, is that you can change and make your own schedule. And that's what we have in store for you this morning. Our new program this morning, temporary thing, not permanent, 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. And this kind of reflected into yesterday being absent from our program. Unexpectedly, didn't plan anything yesterday. I know I had a couple of doctor's appointments, but it was morally so because we had a guest at our house for the last few days. And, the one thing is, the last thing I want to do is wake up our guest, first thing in the morning at 4:30 in the morning, 6 o'clock, yelling and screaming because, I've been told that when I talk into this microphone that, the entire house can hear me. So I try to be more respectful when we have a guest, not try to, someone just walks out to the living room and says, oh, someone is doing something in the corner. It's not suspicious or anything like that. So, didn't get a show on yesterday. We'll definitely be getting, try to be respectful, but it's Wednesday, it's January 11th. We're halfway through the week. Okay. Let me find that. We are halfway through the week. Let's make it through another week. And, we got a lot to talk about, a lot going on. This is a sports week going on and some breaking news coming out. I think this is just only fair to cover this right off the going. Former Co-CEO and Chairwoman Stephanie McMahon resigns from her position after returning of Vince McMahon. And we, listen, and this is all unfolded a couple of days ago, last week, when we saw, Vince McMahon return to help the negotiation of the selling process. Well, she comes up with the letter. She makes this post on Twitter. And I'm just going to go ahead and read it. I got it on my cell phone here. About 8 months ago, I took a leave of absence, and within a few weeks, unexpectedly, had the opportunity of a lifetime. I had the privilege to return as a co-CEO and chairwoman of the board of WWE. I cannot put into words how proud I am to have led what I consider the greatest company in the world, working alongside a remarkable leadership team and one of the strongest executives I have known in my co-CEO, Nick Khan. Our founder, Vince McMahon, has returned as executive chair and is leading an exciting process regarding strategic alternatives. I am sorry, I'm having such a great morning by not being able to pronunciate anything. And with Nick Khan's leadership and Triple H as chief content officer, I am confident WWE is in perfect place to continue to provide unparalleled creative content, drive maximum value for shareholders. WWE is such a strong position, and I have decided to return to my leave and take it one step further with my official resignation. I look forward to cheering on WWE from the other side of the business where I started when I was a little kid as a pure fan. I always remain dedicated to WWE. I truly love our company, our employees, our superstars, and our fans. And I am grateful to all of our partners. Thank you for everything. Then, now, forever together, Stephanie McMahon. All right. So, I mean, that was a pretty bold statement. We knew. And it was interesting, what I find interesting out of this entire conversation is that a lot of people found this as a shock to most. And I'm just kind of like, where do you find this, Stephanie stepping down as a shock? I mean, I think I was even talking about this when last summer when this all, unraveled, and I didn't know the level of, hey, is Vince McMahon going to come back? It wasn't up until December when I was reading reports of, okay, Vince McMahon is no longer being allocated with these charges, so forth and so on. And so, okay, let's go ahead and, he may want to come back to the company. But the thing is, it's a lot more complicated than that. Stephanie McMahon stepped down earlier last year. And there's no particular, I don't know if there's really any definition why. Obviously, she has a family. She wants to be with her family. Maybe she knows something that we don't know in the process of selling the company, and that this was, maybe she knew the allegations on her father ahead of time. But, the McMahon's family have really kept themselves isolated and quiet about everything that's been going on. I mean, they've been taught that, they've been raised that. So that's what's been happening. And this is what it is. I mean, when she resigned and then she quickly turned around to capture the co-CEO of WWE, she wasn't there to hey, this is my chance to take over the company. But this is the opportunity to at least keep the company afloat and keep a McMahon in there, and until we figure out, all right, what is going on with Vince McMahon, what is his future with the company officially going to be through this investigation. Vince McMahon was encouraged by the board of WWE's to step down, to resign, to quote unquote retire as chairman of the WWE during the investigations. All right. He was, he didn't know where this was going to lead, how far it was going to lead, if this was going to be any more than just an investigation. And so he did what he thought was best for business, was going to step down, get out of the picture, take himself away from WWE, so that if anything happens to him, he's not dragging one of the most prestigious companies in this global world, as we know of WWE. So Stephanie McMahon steps in. She's already knows the business. She knows how to run it in the, office. She brings in, Triple H to help create stuff. And for the last 8 months, we've been satisfied. Matter of fact, we've been more than satisfied, because the WWE has taken a change of direction. And we think, we want to give, we're giving credit, and respectfully so, to Triple H and Nick Khan, and for Stephanie McMahon. But then when last week we hear that Vince McMahon is returning because he wants to sell the company, or, the main shareholder of WWE, he wants to be able to proceed with the process of selling the company as smooth as possible, Stephanie McMahon's job is done. I had a conversation with a friend of mine last night about this, and it's like, we knew this was coming. It was a temporary thing. It was either Triple H was going to come back and determine, run business as he wants to, and then, things will change, or he's going to, something's going to happen. He's going to have to stay away. At that point, Nick Khan and Stephanie McMahon will proceed with what they want to do with the company moving forward. So I don't know what type of surprise it is to see Stephanie McMahon step down. It is, I think, I will admit that I'm saddened to see Stephanie McMahon step down. I really think the WWE's position where they're at, keeping it in the McMahon's family, keeping it in a wrestling dynasty is best for business. I don't want to see the company get turned over to a non-wrestling promotion at company or someone who doesn't, who just doesn't fit the bill, in my opinion, and take over and make changes. And eventually, my fear is the WWE gets run into the ground. But that is my fear. That is my prerogative. And unfortunately, it's going to happen. Whatever happens is going to happen without Stephanie McMahon. So, I want to say thank you to Stephanie McMahon because she has given us throughout her entire career, whether it was just spectating as a fan as a little child and you saw those pictures, her sitting on Andre the Giant's lap, to her role that she had to play, in the ring as not just as a manager, but as a wrestler as well, professional athlete. And then as a businesswoman, right? I mean, when you really, I don't know, maybe there's stories that I'm not aware of, but, Triple H, Vince McMahon as Stephanie McMahon as a business aspect is someone you kind of want to look towards too, because they've been successful for so many years. And Stephanie McMahon has been a really successful woman. So whatever is down the road for her, whatever is next for her, whether that is taking, going home, taking care of her, children, doing her own business, whatever the case may be, we thank you for thanks Stephanie for everyone, for everything that she provided. We hope that, whatever's next for her is the best and she has the most, she makes the most of it. And, now we're just back here wondering what's next. What's next for Vince McMahon? What's next for the WWE? And you do get concerned, right? I know earlier this week we talked about potential buyers, NBC, Fox, Disney, stuff like, companies like that, where you can probably legitimately see the company going to. I know for the longest time Disney has been in the conversation. And then, we just spitball a couple name ideas. Could Nick Khan pick, not Nick, can Nick Khan run the company solely by himself? Do you got to bring in maybe Tony Khan from AEW? How will that work? Or even, I know names were even thrown out there by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson at some point. A lot of people are favored. Hey, if you're going to sell the company, sell it to a wrestling family like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's family. You have the Usos and the Bloodline involved, and they're all related. And I guess, like I said, the worries, the troubles, the struggles are about figuring out how, the WWE is going to move on, how they're going to transpire and adjust and, push forward beyond this point. Coming from Sportskeeda, I guess 8 hours ago, yesterday, after Stephanie McMahon brought down, and I don't know how I feel about this. I don't know how much of it is true. I've seen this a little bit on the on social media, but according to Sportskeeda, WWE has officially been sold to Saudi Arabia's public investment fund. And the post is on Facebook. It says, reportedly, the company will go back to being private. And I really don't know how to wrap my head around that, whether that's true or not. I mean, gosh, I think waking up this morning to officially read that is kind of almost heartbreaking, if you asking me. I'm very, I don't know what to think of. Out of everyone you could think of owning WWE after its rich history, and I don't know, to see Saudi Arabia have, public investment fund. I mean, is that, I guess, is that what's best for the, I mean, I would think after 30 plus years that the McMahons owned WWE, World Wrestling Entertainment / Federation, however, whatever era you grew up in, to see the name McMahon no longer be entitled with WWE, nonetheless, someone that we feel comfortable with, I guess, I don't know, I mean, obviously there's a business move that is being made. It's best for business. I don't know too much about Saudi Arabia's public investment fund, and I don't know what type of a future that's going to hold. I don't know. I'm looking to learn more of the details. Hopefully more details come out involving what does exactly mean. I know the WWE just announced them going to London after WrestleMania for Money in the Bank. You do ask the questions of who's gonna, how, WWE has their own marketing team, has their own, creative team. And if you sold it, the more ideal spot for us as maybe wrestling fans is to see WWE get sold to NBC, Disney, Fox, Comcast, whatever a company nearby that we probably know a little bit more information about, or to someone more distinct to the wrestling industry. Gosh, I'm just lost for words. Unfortunately, I am lost for words. This is coming out of Sportscadia this morning. I don't know how much of it is legitimately true. Obviously, you got those rumors, but Sportscadia is one of those sources that you do go to when you're coming for wrestling news, and even PW Insider, and if you just, you see news articles. So we're going to have to wait and see exactly the details about that. I'm hoping, you always get feared of, going on a show and giving you, some fake news. And I would love to be the laughing stock of the world if this is just what that is, if this is that fake news. But I'm hoping that is. Out of every time that you want fake, you don't want fake news, you don't want to give false information out on a program, you're hoping that this is that program and this is that moment that is underway. All right, so we will try to keep up with that story as it unfolds. Hopefully we learn a little bit more information about that, but we still have a program to continue as we take a look into AEW Dynamite that comes underway tonight. A couple of big matches, to entertain us on TBS tonight. We're also going to get ready for Hard to Kill. That's coming up this Saturday, and the match card. I do want to talk in the wrestling world a little bit about Braun Breaker as he retains the NXT championship last night against Grayson Waller. He will be facing him once again next week on Vengeance Day inside a steel cage. So we're looking forward to that, and we'll have a little bit more of NFL and sports talk coming into it. So, all right, we're just getting started on a Wednesday. Some interesting news coming your way. We're trying to find out more about everything that's going on. We thank you guys for tuning us in on YouTube. If you guys are on YouTube, hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Leave comments down below. Check us out live. Make us your daily trip heading into work on a daily basis. If you guys are over on Twitter, thank you guys as well. I'm working on getting me back up on Facebook, but I need to there's a couple of steps of verification and all that good stuff. Be sure to download us and take us with you on the road on any audio streaming platforms: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Spreaker. If you have a podcast app, we're most likely on it. All right. We're just getting underway here on a Wednesday. Let's step aside and we'll come back with more information. You guys are listening to The Throw-In with Justin. That's me right here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. We would like to give a shout out and thanks to StreamYard, a proud home of the Throw-In on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. StreamYard Studios is where you can create podcasts, videos, host virtual business meetings, and even conduct interviews. Check out their free version today at StreamYard.com. And man, we're just wrapping our heads around some of the breaking news that just broke away about 8 hours ago last night. Something that I woke up this morning wasn't into place. The potential thought signed over to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, I think it's mind-blowing and mind-boggling, unsurreal. I think it's no matter what the case is going to be, no matter, wherever WWE ends up landing at. Okay. Because I mean, that's all it is. WWE Champions on Facebook says breaking WWE has been sold to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And then Sportskeeda comes out 4 hours ago, and says, even though the rumors are there is no official statement from either of the parties. Sportskeeda has a post saying WWE being sold to Saudi Arabia isn't final yet, but an agreement is in principle. Just thinking of, I think, in general, the WWE being owned by any other company or any other name other than something that is affiliated with the McMahons is so hard to just, I think, gravitate to grasp. And, I'm interested in hearing back from other people exactly, all right, this is going to happen one way or the other, whether it's Saudi Arabia, whether it's NBC, whether it's, Comcast, whether it's Disney, it doesn't matter. WWE is officially going to be sold, is going to be having a new owner. And for people who's been watching it, of all ages, there's people in their 50s, 60s, 70s who still watch WWE, and there's people that are 10, 12, 20 years old that are watch WWE. That's all they've ever known WWE to be for, is the McMahon's family. It's the McMahon's dynasty here. This is a lifetime investment that the McMahons held. To see it owned by someone else is hard. And I think, yes, all good things do come to an end. I accept that. But I also think that, putting the product in the wrong hands. And I'm not saying anything against Saudi Arabia. I don't know nothing about how their business is. All I know is that over the past 10 years, they've been highly invested into the WWE to the point where they paid them any X dollar amount just to get them to go out there on a yearly basis, a few times a year, and put on a show for them. Crown Jewel and, all that good, once a year stuff. We were just there with Logan Paul and Roman Reigns a couple of months ago. So I know that they were interested and they're fascinated, and WWE took the opportunity to expand their product. And I'm not blaming anyone. Obviously, Vince McMahon, hey, if you're going to have to sell the company that you own and that you love, you do have to make that decision. All right, am I going to sell it for the most money and get my retirement out of this? Knowing that, not knowing where the company's going to be at in maybe 3 to 5 years, or do I try to sell it and accept less money and sell it to someone I'm more comfortable with, more comfortable knowing that they're going to take it down the right direction, if not hire the people to take the company down the right direction? Because I would figure that you'd want this company to outlast every other wrestling company in the world. You would also consider that, all right, this was this is a company that you want that have beat out WCW, that has beat out NWA, WCCW, ECW. Right now they're beating out AEW, TNA, Impact Wrestling. I mean, if it's a wrestling company out there beating out New Japan. They're beating out AAA. I mean, if it's a wrestling company out there, WWE is on top. It's at the top of the empire of wrestling companies. And the last thing you want is to have it be brought down, put back on some sort of access TV, limited, poor management decisions. And I do always believe that in the world of wrestling, right, just like NFL and baseball, NBA and MLB, what do they have? They have players associations. You have the owners and the franchise that talk together among each other, get the rules, and they got players, and they have a say before they go out and entertain and play for this company. They have a say in what they want. It's crucial that you have in the wrestling business. You got to have wrestlers involved in operating the business. Just like the production crew, we talked about this heavily last year. In the production crew, at the beginning of the year, the WWE was terrible at it. You got to have wrestlers in the production crew to teach these production crews, this is how you're going to operate it. I don't know. This is, yes, nothing's set in form yet. Nothing's set in etched in stone, and an agreement maybe that's going to come over the next couple of days, or even by the day. Maybe I have to come back on tonight to figure out and to break that news to you guys. But man, that this is going to come. Unfortunately, how this is coming out of it, who's going to own it, I think is more terrifying, because you don't know what they're capable of. So we're going to have to keep going as this story unfolds and unravels, and we'll try to keep you updated with everything that is being released. On the other note, in the WWE last night, Braun Breaker defeats Grayson Waller for the NXT Championship. And they're set for a rematch at Vengeance Day inside a steel cage. My ultimate question coming out of this story, coming out of this topic, is truly what's next for Braun Breaker. I don't think he gets a lot of recognition for what he's done. He was a part of the beginning of this new era, he had to be a part of a couple eras. The new image, the new look. NXT over the last year went through two new looks. One held by Vince McMahon, one held by Triple H, and for what's best for the company. And he's had to adjust, and he's had to, he was quickly in the story mix of being on top of the bar, the standards for AEW. He was the face of NXT, not AEW, NXT. Apologize, I'm all over the place here, thinking about both two companies. NXT. Braun Breaker, when he first came into the business, when he first came into the WWE, and he went down to NXT roster, he was quick. Within a month, within 2 months, maybe, I think, he was NXT champion. He was in main events. He was that it factor. He was the face of the company. He became the face of NXT quicker than than Roman Reigns became the face of WWE. And since then, he's had to obtain that face. And it's kind of hard, because as you obtain the face of a company or a product like NXT, he's still being taught how the business works. He's being taught how to be a champion. He's being taught how to be a main event. He's still being taught how to compete and wrestle. You remember back when he first came in, he learned how to spear, and he learned how to just throw guys around. Well, now he's actually in wrestling matches, probably better matches now than he was a year ago when he was facing top guys like, Tommaso Ciampa and Dolph Ziggler. And you would like to think that it's the guys that they're bringing up for him that over the last year that is helping him in ring. And sure, that's the case. But, he's learned a lot over a year. You want to, probably the outbreak star, in my opinion, of 2022 has to be Braun Breaker. he's had so much to tackle on and so much responsibility. Not saying that he's not capable of handling. He's more than capable of handling his own. But he's been in NXT for over a year. He's held that NXT championship title well over a year. What's next for him? You know, I still, last year I threw him into the conversation, probably just for the hell of it. That he has an opportunity at maybe being the guy to dethrone Roman Reigns for at least one of those titles. And I could see several feuds up in the WWE main roster where if he carries over what he has now over to the main product, whether it's Raw or SmackDown, I see him just getting bigger and better and better and better. Braun Breaker is something different, something new. He's actually gotten that image. He's gotten over before guys like Dominic Mysterio, who we'll talk a little bit later on in our program, but he's been getting over better, bigger, better, quicker than him. And he's had to do it on his own. Yes, he has his family, and they tie him back to Rick and Scott Steiner. I feel like that was really just the one moment at WrestleMania inducting them into the Hall of Fame. After that, he's been doing this on his own, and he's been making a name for himself. When you think of Braun Breaker, you don't relay him back to Rick Steiner and Scott Steiner. Yeah, he has the resemblance, but when you think of Braun Breaker inside that ring, you don't connect him to his family. You connect him to his own individual athlete, and that is so rare. Like, you take, for example, Dominic Mysterio, who's finally coming in to his own character, the character that people wanted him to come into. I tell you, breaking apart from Rey Mysterio has been the best thing Dominic has ever done. Right? Getting himself away from his familia is the best thing that Dominic Mysterio has ever done. Making a name for himself, made him had to change his image, made him have to change his style. And you know what? Maybe it's the kick of, all right, Eddie Guerrero. Let me kind of base my character off of Eddie Guerrero, who played a big part of me coming into the WWE. But Dominic Mysterio right now is being known of his own. When I look at Dominic Mysterio, he has that style. He has that A factor. He's finally getting the crowd to notice him. And and that's all because he's not holding the hands of anyone anymore. Yes, maybe, his father and other athletes are still teaching him and, building him up, creating him. But Dominic's finally building his own. But back to Braun Breaker. I need to know exactly when Braun Breaker is time to come up. I mentioned this last year where a great opportunity is coming up before us here in a few weeks at the Royal Rumble. Maybe he drops the title. He comes up and he's a new challenger for anybody on the roster. And like I mentioned, there's a lot of talent on the main roster that can continue working with Braun, continue building him up. He could be that next big thing. There's guys like Bobby Lashley. He could go toe-to-toe with Brock Lesnar. He could go up with Sheamus, Drew McIntyre, Gunther, Bray Wyatt, Roman Reigns, Solo Sikoa. I mean, there's just an endless amount of great matches that you will be given to from him that just keeps on building him up. With that being said, I think before we could move on and bring Braun Breaker up to the WWE, you have to be able to have someone in his replacement. And is that Grayson Waller? And in all honesty, you're not really going to know who that guy is until you give him that shot and that opportunity. You could always give him that shot and that opportunity and take it away from him after a few weeks if he doesn't seem to get the fans behind him. But you need to start figuring out, because I don't know if it's better for Braun's career to remain in NXT. And yeah, the last thing I want him to do is to go get lost up in the WWE main roster and that not really have any opponents. But right now, things are fresh. Right now, we're looking for that new talent. It is WrestleMania season. We're on the road to the Royal Rumble. Followed by that is the road to WrestleMania. We haven't had a single match announced for WrestleMania yet, which is kind of strange, but probably because we don't know the direction that we're going in quite yet. There's some of ideas, but when usually at this this time last year, we knew we were already figuring out, all right, so and so is going to play, face who, so and so is going to face who. The only idea that I think we have is Cody Rhodes taking on Seth Rollins at WrestleMania yet again. Other than that, I know it was thrown out there over the weekend that possibly Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn could team up and dethrone the Usos for the tag titles, and that could be a WrestleMania match. But we're not 100% sure for that. We're not even 25% sure for that. Hell, I'm not even 10% sure for that. So is it time to call up Braun Breaker? And how much of a difference would that make for the WWE? All right, like I said, we are just coming off of some news that came out earlier this morning. A matter of fact, Bobby, yesterday, most likely. It is not set in stone yet, but there are high talks about arranging a plan for Saudi Arabia to buy out the WWE from Vince McMahon. So as we learn more information about that, we will continue that. Want to take a break? I want to come back and just give you, start changing the subject here because, although football, the wild card weekend is coming up, in a couple of days, there are still a lot of, this is a time, a lot of areas in the world of sports are going to start talking about these teams. And I do kind of want to push that back one more day. I want to really start maybe doing a little bit more homework, start talking about that tomorrow into Friday, getting ready for the 6 games that are going to be played this weekend over a 3-day span. But there are also other questions in the NFL that I want to address. Things like next generation quarterbacks, grade levels. Also, the big thing that I want to start talking about coming up next is Aaron Rodgers. We unfortunately saw out of everything that has transpired and everything that happened on Sunday, the last image that we saw in the NFL out of Week 18 was Aaron Rodgers and Cobb walking off, holding each other, as if this was their last game in their career. And I know this is a story on and off and anything like that, but if Aaron Rodgers could return, I want to keep that conversation up and going. All right. We're going to step aside, take a break, come on back, still talk to you about the world of sports, keep you updated on stories and news, all that good stuff, taking you up until 10 a.m. this morning on this Wednesday, January the 11th, right here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. 8:46 here on the throw-in Wednesday morning, January the 11th. Take you guys up until 10 o'clock. We want to give a nice shout out to Epidemic Sound, who provides us royalty-free music to come back from breaks and being played. Discover your world-class artists, composers, and bands. Find the perfect soundtrack and give your social media accounts the music they deserve. Epidemic Sound is a royalty-free music link. For more information, check out epidemicsound.com. All right. I think it took me by surprise this morning to unravel just how quick the process was going to be. It was just just a few days ago that we discovered that with Vince McMahon returning back to the WWE to help prolong and proceed a smooth process of the WWE being sold. Okay. A matter of days later, Stephanie McMahon stepped down as of yesterday in a statement that we opened up the show with. And I think for me, this is kind of just wrapping around heads and becoming a priority of this program, with the program moving forward, just because it's such a big news. It's such something that it's so unsurreal. And so I kind of want to talk a little bit more. I saw an article here about 35 minutes ago, coming from Sportscadia, and where we are at right now. Okay. And so I'm going to push Aaron Rodgers' story in the NFL into the top of the hour. But I want to talk a little bit more about where we're at right now. So, Stephanie McMahon stepped down as co-CEO and chairwoman of the WWE as of yesterday. She resigned. And the board of directors unanimously elected Vince McMahon as the executive chairman. He's still working alongside Nick Khan. Now there's rumors about the company, there's reports that suggest that Saudi Arabia Public Investment Fund had purchased the WWE. And, nothing's set in stone. No, WWE has not officially came out and officially claimed anything. Neither Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund has come out and said anything. But this is how real it's going to get over the next few months as this process and this position is going to eventually change, regardless if it's Saudi Arabia, regardless if it's NBC, regardless if it's Disney. The WWE is for real and is serious about changing and about selling the company. And, I started off this morning saying that, we knew Stephanie McMahon was not, this was not a long-term deal. And, within matters of just hours, I thought maybe I'd come on, talk a little bit about Stephanie McMahon, thanking her and then moving on. And, because this was going to be a process, but just to think of now the company being separated, thinking about that maybe as of tomorrow or even 6 months or even in 1 year that we will be seeing a new company owning WWE, a new private company, and it will no longer belong to the McMahon's family. We've talked about all the concerns that we have maybe as a fan, but I think one of the things we have to really address here is also how does the talent and the staff feel? There's already been, over the last 10 years been athletes who refuse to go to Saudi Arabia, not because that they hate Saudi Arabia, no, but maybe because of personal beliefs. Sami Zayn, for his example, he's dropped out because of the Syrian / Canadian superstar. He's opt out of Saudi Arabia because of his heritage. And there's already been statements since this report, which was reported yesterday, that if Saudi Arabia does get their hands on WWE, you're going to see talent walk out. And I don't think that Sami Zayn is going to be the only person that's walked out. And it's not going to be because of anything personal, but do you blame them? Ronda Rousey said this here, and I quote, "I don't know if you haven't noticed it. Everything's a little bit in a flux with the WWE right now, and I don't think anyone knows what's going on with anybody." let alone this week or weeks from now. No one was aware of Vince McMahon. I mean, maybe very selected people were aware of Vince McMahon returning to the WWE. I don't think no one really quite knew, um, the in depths of what was going to unfold so far this week. I think it also, and here's, for yet again, another thing that you kind of ponder over. It happens all the time in other businesses, but in a large business like the WWE and how close and how personal relationships are between Vince McMahon and his talent, you would think that maybe he'd make some sort of address and announcement to this talent saying, hey, we are in the process of looking to selling the company. If you have any concerns, I will hopefully make time with me or one of our staffs to really sit down, talk about options. I don't think that you should be responsible for holding talent there if they decide, hey, based off of your decision, we're going to walk out. Sammy, if you do sell this company to Saudi Arabia by tomorrow and it becomes official, do expect people to walk out. And if that's the case, you got to let them go. Let them go expand. Let them go explore other regions. I mean, unfortunately, this is just an era in time that people that for a while it's going to be unsurreal. And although we may not see anything unravel for a year, 2 years, you wonder, you question if the company gets sold to anybody, just anyone in general. What does this mean for talent stars? Do they, they may not agree. Some people are in the WWE only for Vince McMahon. William Regal came back through reports, and I haven't seen or confirmed if this is true or not, but I saw a post yesterday where William Regal was back at the NXT headquarters. And William Regal is back because of Vince McMahon. Shawn Michaels has stepped in to help the developmental staff because of Vince McMahon. Triple H is taking over creative, and has been brought up through Vince McMahon. I don't know how the bloodline feels about this. I don't know how the Mysterios feel about this. I don't know how the Flairs feel about this. And if they decide that, hey, this is the process and this is the direction we need to go into, who's going to stay and who's going to leave? WrestleMania 39. And I'm going to say this, and I'll probably get a lot of backlash for saying this, but there is a slight chance that WrestleMania 39 in Hollywood this year could very well be the last, depending on who buys the product. At least the last normal. And, I wouldn't blame talent, these athletes who go out week in and week out. You're being asked to go out there and put on a product while this is all happening at corporate office as if business is normal, knowing that if someone buys a company tomorrow, they could let everyone go. This entire company could be dismantled, deformed. It could be changed tremendously. And I think there's a lot of fear, not just as a fan, but as a, person who loves the WWE, as someone who, for me personally, I think of the WWE as the number one show. They outbeat AEW. They outbeat TNA. They outbeat NWA. They outbeat NWF. To see something happen to the WWE that alters that status is it's so unsurreal. So, wrapping up our number one, gonna try to move forward. Like I said, I'm still covering any news that's coming out of Sportscadia and, everything that has unfolded over the last 24 hours between Stephanie McMahon stepping down between as co-CEO and, Vince McMahon being named executive chairman again. to the reports of WWE reporting of selling the company and rumors out there already saying that they have sold the company to Saudi Arabia. That was not a name on the list a few days ago when we came here and we talked about options about selling the company. Matter of fact, the report said a few days ago that this company could be sold, or expect the company to officially go through the process and being sold no later than about April or May. And within 24 hours of Stephanie McMahon stepping down, saying her goodbyes, we're seeing, the rumors already out there that a company is stepping in. And I'm hoping, like I said, I don't like to come on here and give you, false information, fake news, this and that. So I am hoping that this is just fake news, that this is, there was never negotiation, that they're still in, that there are people still in contact. Maybe this is put out there because they want someone else to buy it and they need to kind of throw out this saying, hey, we're almost to a deal. So either are you in, or are you out? And so it's kind of one of those unofficial moments that I hope that they're wrong. I hope that this is not as far as they say it is. And, as we move along, we will provide you updates and stories among this. And then just to sit back for a moment, I will cut to a break here because we're at the end of the hour. Just to sit back for a moment and soak it in, saying that, this is real. This is something that, we talked about time and time again, and we didn't know how quite, we're like, all right, as long as this is in the conversation, it's a conversation. That's all it is. But now we're actually at the point where our conversations and our theoretical responses are now reality. That your entire childhood, your entire experience with the WWE is now going to vanish because there's going to be someone else in a different region that takes hold of the product that you most dearly love, that has set the foundation, that set the stepping stone to what professional wrestling is today. All right, hour number 2 of the throw-in coming up next here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Hour number 2 of the throw-in starts now. Alrighty. Let's kind of reset the clock, kind of get ourselves focused in, trying to move on from everything that we talked about in hour number 1. And like I mentioned, if you guys are just joining us in, our shows are normally from 6 to 8 in the morning. But we had some guests over the last couple of days. That's why my absence was for yesterday. And, that's why the show is from 8 to 10 this morning. We will resume our 6 to 8 tomorrow morning as normal schedule. This hour of the throw-in, I want to give a shout out and thanks to Spreaker. I want to give a shout out also to Steve Barber over there in Armchair Booking, who I will mention here a little later on in this hour, because he's the one who introduced me to Spreaker as an audio platform that you can monetize and get compensated for based off of who listens and how many viewers you have. And so if you're looking to grow your own product and you want to see, you want to try to help, the financial attributes, or, try to make a little bit of income off of this, it's possible. But Spreaker is a way to do so. So, every time I download a new episode onto audio platforms, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, there's Deezer, Podchaser, so many, if you listen any audio platforms that you have, I'm most likely on, other than maybe Amazon, which I don't know why. I'm not gonna go. Maybe I think they want to charge me. Spreaker's the way to go. Now it is a subscription. You have to sign up. You have to pay for it, but you can upload up to 500 hours at a time. And it'll just delete the last ones. And so, you delete every episode. And this is a nice, simple, easy way. You download the uploaded episode, you enter in some monetizer where they will cut to a break on some down moments. They'll even do it for you if you ask them to. And you publish it, people can listen to it, and then it's a way for you to start maybe earning something involved into your podcast. So check them out, Spreaker.com. Thank you for allowing us a platform to podcast our shows audio wise on you guys. All right, everything has transpired, unfolded, catching up with that news and that storyline. It's pretty big in the wrestling world to see the WWE potentially sooner than later being sold. Reports coming out that WWE has been sold to Saudi Arabia. No, these all were sports coming from sources from Sportscadia. They have also mentioned that it isn't final. So neither parties have came out and addressed this matter and said, hey, yeah, this is what is happening. But I think it puts perspectives in a much real situation where, hey, the WWE is going to be selling their product sooner or later, to whom still unclarified. But this is going to happen very, not in some short period of time frame. All right, want to also go ahead and give you out some sports coming on today, things to look at as well. Tipping off here at 7 p.m. Louisville is going to be over in Clemson. The 2-14 Louisville, who is winless in conference and on a losing streak of a 5-game losing streak as of late, will go on against the dominant 13-3 Clemson, who is undefeated in conference. That tip off is at 7. You also get a tip off at 9 p.m. tonight. Between the 11-6 Cincinnati Bearcats and the 10-7 East Carolina. The East Carolina is 1-3 in conference, 2-2 for Cincinnati. They're both on losing streaks. Someone's looking to come away with a victory. This is going to be a pretty good one. This is taking place in Cincinnati. If you are in the local area and want to head out to this game, check them out tonight. I think that's going to be a bigger game, pretty late at night to say. But coming also here locally, the Wallies and Cyclones puck drops at 7:30 p.m. It's t-shirt giveaway night at the Heritage Bank Arena, as well as $2 draft beers. If you guys are looking at something to do halfway through the week, head on out to a Cyclones hockey game or head out to Cincinnati Bearcats men's basketball. All right, we are transitioning now, trying to move along in the world of sports, as we heavily talked about the WWE as of late, and kind of want to talk about, as the wildcard weekend gets set, I'm going to push that off until tomorrow and Friday so that we're capable of kind of giving you more of a rundown. I could kind of do a little bit more. Plus, there's a lot of strategies, or not strategies, but there's a lot of decisions that need to be made. And one of the big decisions is, like, for example, you have what's the status of Lamar Jackson, and will he be playing this Sunday night at Paycor Stadium against the Bengals? They just faced each other, last week. Brown Jr. was in there, and, the Ravens need to determine and figure out this week what we're going to have to do to pick up a victory against the Bengals, because they lost by over 10 points back on Sunday. But, as teams were making the playoffs this past weekend, this also past weekend was also a clear image to base off of what happened at the very end of the NFL season with the Packers and Lions. Lions, although they were knocked out of the playoffs heading into the game because Seattle won, they're like, all right, let's sabotage Green Bay and their playoff opportunity, because Green Bay needed to win in order to become the 7th spot in the wild card. Well, now since Detroit beat them, the last scene that we saw walking off into the sunset of the 2022/23 season is Aaron Rodgers and Cobb walking off holding each other. Now, it seems like it's every year the past 3 to 4 years that Aaron Rodgers, people like Aaron Rodgers, people like Tom Brady are putting their money where their mouth is, going to social media or talking to someone that then reports a speculation that they're going to retire this year. And last year we saw the anonymous, that whole 4-week span of Tom Brady saying, "Hey, I'm done," and then he comes out of retirement. Well, Aaron Rodgers can most definitely play for another 3 to 5 years if he helps, and I know he's talked about, earlier this season, he may most likely be done. He also mentioned after the game that, listen, I'm going to figure things out and I will let you know when I can. And I think that's the appropriate response. I don't want to go sit there and speculate. It is also, for me, an ending of an era when it comes down to certain quarterbacks and certain players. We found out, a couple of weeks prior to Sunday's game that Arizona Cardinals J.J. Watt was retiring from play. And, you enjoy you kind of hate watching them play, especially if they're sitting on the other side of the field from your team that you're rooting for. But, he's an unfortunate player that has not gotten a chance to win. And as he creeps up in age and as his injuries progress him, the chances of him going to a team that's going to give him an opportunity. Now, we've seen this happen. We've seen a scenario where you go into retirement and week 17, 18 comes around and, a team needs, that's in the playoff needs an additional DB. J.J. Watt could come out and do that. We've seen that with Eric Weddle. And we almost thought we saw that with Andrew Whitworth, who retired after the Super Bowl win with the Los Angeles Rams. But it's not the same scenario in the same case for the quarterback position. And Aaron Rodgers, on much as maybe people do want him to retire, and as much on how people do want him to, maybe stay, there is still there's an uncertainty that he may be with Green Bay. Green Bay has to make that decision. One is, how bad do they need Aaron Rodgers? And two, what's their next game plan without Aaron Rodgers? Because for the first time, Green Bay is now sitting in a predicament where, you missed the playoffs, first time since 2018. You felt comfortable between having Brett Favre transition to Aaron Rodgers. And I think that, Green Bay is uncertain of what direction they want to head in. And, Aaron Rodgers, if he has any more playing time left, he has a decision as well as to make. Whether he wants to stay with Green Bay and play out his remainder of his career with the Packers, which is just going to be an emotional headache, in my opinion, going back and forth saying, well, I don't know if I want to play with you guys. I may retire. Oh, well, I'm just going to go ahead and stay in Green Bay because that's what I know. But there are some teams out there that are currently maybe looking for a quarterback, a quarterback in a position. There are teams that are looking to win now, that maybe this is the offseason that they put 2 and 2 together. They go out and they get a quarterback, and then they go out and they get themselves a few players to go along with that quarterback, and then they push for a title run this year. And some teams that have not made the postseason this year that are possibly looking for that: the New York Jets, the Las Vegas Raiders, the Tennessee Titans, and the Washington Commanders. There are other teams like the Patriots, all right, that are also looking. Miami has a quarterback problem where they're going to have to address their quarterback issue in the offseason. The Buccaneers are going to have to address a quarterback scenario in the offseason, especially if Tom Brady decides that he wants to depart ways with them and go to another team. San Francisco is full of injured quarterbacks, but has some really great potential in Brock Purdy, who is now taking the team into the postseason. And, you know, what San Francisco doesn't know what they want out of their quarterback. You know, they almost got rid of Garoppolo to bring him back as a second string. He gets the start. Both starting quarterback goes down. Purdy has to finish off the last end of the season. And then maybe Seattle Seahawks. But why give up Geno Smith if you're playing 10 times better after getting rid of Russell Wilson? So top 9 destinations that Aaron Rodgers can select from: Seattle, San Francisco, Tampa Bay, Miami, Washington, as I mentioned, New England, Tennessee, Las Vegas, and New York as the Jets. I don't quite, if you're Aaron Rodgers, I want to make this apparent, because if you're Aaron Rodgers, you want to, and I think this is going to go for both ways. Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, two of the great quarterbacks are going to be future Hall of Famers if they decide that they want to continue their career next season and they want to, go on. And the whole purpose is, hey, let's go get another title. And you have a handful of teams that you can select from. You need to ensure that, one, you have the receivers you want, is the environment you want. I don't think at this point you're playing for money. But then on top of that, you need to have the offensive line. You don't want to go through a season like Tom Brady has gone through this year, where your defense and your offensive side are not synced together, are not playing one-on-one with each other, and are actually having complications causing them. I mean, Tampa Bay barely made it into the playoffs this year. They barely made a 500 record this season. And for how good Tom Brady is, for how good Aaron Rodgers is, you don't need to go to a team that's going to give you that much more of a struggle with trying to make it to 500. You need to go to a team that, knowing that, hey, if I could just play how I play, I can, this team's going to do the rest and what they need to do to get me over that hump and get me into a postseason opportunity. You look at some of the matchups, you don't know what Bill Belichick's career is going to be. New England, do you see Aaron Rodgers in New England in the cold? That's the other thing. I mean, he knows everything about the cold. He could go to New England and be with Bill Belichick. I just don't know if the 1-2 combination is going to fit well. Tennessee, I feel, is still on a rebuild, but I don't know if Aaron was going to go down to the South. The Jets, okay, I can see Aaron Rodgers with the Jets. Brett Favre did the same thing. He went to the Jets, so he wanted to also prove that he could still compete, and he had a grudge. I mean, do you go over to Washington and play in the East along with Dak Prescott and Jalen Hurts? I mean, and show him, that would be an understatement. Just showing the entire East how good you are, that you could go do it. Tom Brady's done it last year, a couple of years ago with the Buccaneers, where he hopped over from the AFC to the NFC. He beat he took the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to the Super Bowl for that first year. I mean, possibility. Or there's also been rumors out there that Aaron Rodgers wants to head out to the West Coast. That leaves it for the Raiders, the 49ers, and the Seahawks. And maybe this is a question, for San Francisco. I know that's been rumors and speculations talked about before. There hasn't been any confirmation from either side of San Francisco or, Aaron Rodgers, but I can see Aaron Rodgers in a gold uniform. Seattle, Las Vegas. Las Vegas is up in the air with what they want to do with Derek Carr. So that's a possibility. So I guess the biggest question coming into this offseason is 2 determinations. One is, will Aaron Rodgers retire? Maybe it's time for him to hang up. Maybe 3 options, maybe. 2, he works out a deal for the next few years with Green Bay, but then he sits with the same controversy of having to uphold this team for the next 3 years. And you know how he, sometimes the way that he carries himself is a little offsetting. And then 3, does he want to try out to a new team? But as I mentioned, a team that he decides that he wants to go out to he needs to make sure they have a solid foundation. San Francisco, in my opinion, is the only team to have that solid foundation for him. I like Aaron Rodgers. I like him and I hate him. Aaron Rodgers is a player that I think, he's a future Hall of Famer. I'm not going to decredit. The one problem that I run into when I deal with these issues with these players is that they retire and then they're undecisive about retiring. And I get it. This is all in life. You played from Pop Warner football to high school football to college football to the pros. You're the best of the best. You lead the league. This is where your star and your fame is. I don't know if Aaron Rodgers knows the next direction that he could possibly go into after he's done. And a lot of players don't know that next profession that they're going to go into because he's still a young guy. And, you try to hold off, but I don't, the last thing I want is to be thrown around in, all right, I'm going to retire. I'm, a foot in the door if I'm going to retire or not. And if he's going to retire. If not, not. And there's a whole, just like what we're going to cover up here coming up after the break, there's a whole bunch of young guys that is looking to fill in that position. And they're looking, they don't need veterans like Aaron Rodgers to step behind. Talking about all of that, we're going to take a break. We come back. The next thing I want to kind of start talking a little bit into are the quarterback, the next generation grade level. As the season comes down to an end, let's grade some of these younger quarterbacks. How do they handle this season and what can they look forward to moving forward? That's still to come. We'll take you up until 10 a.m. here on a Wednesday. Thank you guys for tuning into the throw-in, available on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. We want to go ahead and promote and give a shout out to Steve Barber and Dwaylen Davis as they break down news and highlights of professional wrestling. The Armchair Booking Podcast is a weekly wrestling podcast found on YouTube and all audio streaming platforms. Go check out and follow Armchair Booking Podcast now. The latest episode, Why Are We Fans? Recruit Randy was on. It was posted about 13 hours ago yesterday. Have not yet listened to it yet, but I'm excited. One thing I'm excited for them to play and talk about is this whole deal with WWE selling the company and to whom at this time, as things just continue to unfold and update here. As we mentioned earlier in our program, that that Stephanie McMahon stepped down as of co-CEO and chairwoman of the WWE. Vince McMahon was unanimously announced as the executive chairman of the WWE. Vince McMahon has returned in the process of trying to sell the company. And within 24 hours, not even then, there are reports and rumors that WWE has been sold to Saudi Arabia. Now, the only reports. They haven't, this is all coming from Sportscadia Wrestling. I think that they have a credible source, and they have been updating, it's been plastered all over Facebook and social media pages from Sportscadia that it has not been yet in stone, but there's a high potential that Saudi Arabia is in works with buying the WWE. What does that mean to fans? What does that mean to the company? What does that mean to, like Mattel, who is making the action figures for WWE? Also comes out to what does that mean to the fans? Here was a report from Sportscadia Wrestling about 20 minutes ago. First-hand source has informed Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful that they could leave the company if Saudi Arabia sales materialize. And that's true. I don't know. There's been very little information from the WWE talent roster in regards to the whole deal about being informed of a possible sell of the company. And the big question is that if the WWE does sell the company into the wrong hands, I guess that's the big, question, especially to a company, in Saudi Arabia or to Saudi Arabia, who there are athletes who have maybe religious history, historical beliefs that go against performing or being affiliated with Saudi Arabia. Guys like Sami Zayn, maybe Kevin Owens. You don't know how the bloodlines are going to react, and, Ronda Rousey made a statement earlier about, hey, listen, there's been a lot of flux and uncertainty after all this breaks because no one's told them about any of this. So this is something that we'll watch and keep an eye out for as the story unfolds, as we learn more information. The timeline we were expecting is probably happening sooner than later. And we knew as a fan, we talked about this for years, that this was going to eventually happen. We maybe thought that, Disney could buy it, NBC could buy it, Comcast, or even an outside, a personal wrestling family like the Rock's family, Dwayne Johnson. I mean, that's just hypothetically. I mean, I would personally like that if I had it my way, but obviously, it doesn't come out that way. There's a lot that is being unraveled and being unfolded. So it is, just business. I would like to see the business being held and being appropriate, being carried on. We won't know until all this is finalized, but it is definitely something to be paying attention towards. All right. We mentioned last segment about Aaron Rodgers' possible destinations. I personally like Aaron Rodgers going to either the Raiders, the 49ers, and the Commanders. I think that if he is to retain into the WWE, not lost subject there. And if he continues his career in the NFL next year, either Green Bay is one that he could just remain his eyes out. Now that's still a complex thing, and understanding, hey, Aaron Rodgers is, they could work out a deal. But if he is up to move and he is to move to a different team, franchise, I'm in favor of the Washington Commanders, the 49ers, and or the Las Vegas Raiders, who are all seeking some sort of clarity of quarterback issues into this offseason. Listen, like I said, we're going to push against, the wild card weekend. Talk a lot about that tomorrow and into Friday as they're, as the Jaguars and the Chargers get ready, as the Bengals and the Ravens get ready. But we're also diving into things that are starting to approach and starting to appear in the off season, such as grade levels of what's happened in the NFL over the past season. So I have a couple of grade levels I like to share with you over rookie quarterbacks that have really made a great impact or they haven't made a great impact in the NFL this season. I'm just going to go right down my list. There's not anyone in particular that really stands out in the in the crowd. There's a couple of them I like, and the first one that I really pops to my attention that I really like the most is the new San Francisco's quarterback, Brock Purdy. He's had to fill in some big shoes in San Francisco after going through three quarterbacks. And now heading into the postseason as a number 2 seed, where the 49ers are going to be taking on the Seahawks in the wild card weekend series this week. Brock is 61% completion rate. He's already thrown for 13 touchdowns and 14 interceptions. He's been filling in some big shoes when it comes down heading into the playoffs. And last time that we've seen any quarterback really had to step in at the end of the season, finish off what they've started, the team started, and then take the team into the playoff and expect them to go the entire playoff route and hopefully take them to the championship. The last guy I remember is Colin Kaepernick replacing Alex Smith. 61% right now is an average among younger quarterbacks right now. And as we look, compare them to the generation that we have now in Joe Burrow and into Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Derek Carr, Justin Herbert, and then we compare them to guys like Tom Brady and, Aaron Rodgers. A lot of quarterbacks start off at this level. So I'm really favoring Brock Purdy over in San Francisco. And I'm actually very excited. I'm excited to see this matchup coming up this weekend between the 49ers and Seattle, because you got Geno Smith, who a lot of people didn't really expect or anticipate Seattle to make it to the playoffs. And then you got San Francisco, who no matter what challenges and what troubles and struggles you throw at them, they are going to continue to thrive heading into the playoffs. They've shown that time and time again. So I'm going to give Brock a solid B+ in my opinion for how he's performed, how he's had to step in and really pick up the slack. Not really pick up the slack, but maintain momentum. I really want to also give out Trevor Lawrence from Jacksonville. He's averaging about the same, 66%. He's obviously thrown a lot more, 3 times as much as Brock, but that's because he's played the entire season. 25 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. You know what? As a good quarterback, you're going to make plenty of mistakes. And that is what Trevor Lawrence has had. But we've explained this at the beginning of the season, you guys. Trevor Lawrence needed to have some sort of great season, good season. And, we thought, Tennessee comes out to an early start, and then you had Jacksonville, who started off the season, on a crappy note. They somehow switch. Something a little surprising. I don't think a lot of people followed Jacksonville, Tennessee, AFC South throughout the year. And I think it finally dawned on people when it came down to week 18, and then the stipulation of, hey, it's a championship game for them, that, just how well Jacksonville put themselves together. And a lot of credit has to be Trevor Lawrence. Now, I'm not saying he's the next big quarterback, but a few years back when he got traded to Jacksonville, I thought that was probably one of the worst teams to be traded for, because they never seem to have a full-on team to compare. And now we're already talking here on a Wednesday that coming up this weekend when they host the Los Angeles Chargers, that they could actually upset the Chargers and Justin Herbert and advance to the division champion. And I wouldn't put it past me that could possibly happen. As a matter of fact, right now, looking at these two matchups, knowing that Jacksonville's home, knowing the momentum that they are hopefully carrying in from last week and beating the Titans and winning the AFC South, that could happen. Trevor Lawrence, he's finally stepping into his own shoes, and I like it. I'm giving him an A- for the season. He still has a long ways to learn, a long ways to go. Don't expect him to carry the entire team on his shoulders. But I like Trevor Lawrence. Coming out of Pittsburgh is Kenny Pickett. He's another guy on my list. I want to give him a solid B-. Okay, he's had to go. He's been, he got drafted. He was expected to be the face of the franchise here in Pittsburgh. I don't know if that's going if that is true. He's 63%. He's only thrown 2,500 yards, sharing the field with Mitchell Trubisky over the year. 7 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Don't expect and have high expectations for rookie quarterbacks. I'm gonna tell you that right off the bat. Okay, for this upcoming draft that is coming up this year, and we noticed that there's only a handful of selected top tier quarterbacks coming out of Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, Will Levis, Bo Nix, for example. They're all going to be probably selected, but don't expect them to perform at the top tier level in the rookie year. And I think a lot of people put the pressure on a Kenny Pickett. The first year without Ben Roethlisberger in Pittsburgh, the first year that we didn't know if Pittsburgh was capable of having the winning record, and Mike Tomlin somehow pulled off another year without losing. And although they didn't make it to the playoffs, there's something to acknowledge right now in Pittsburgh. And I think this is momentum to follow into next year as Kenny Pickett continues to learn Pittsburgh football, as he gets his shoes wet and he gets into deeper water in the NFL. And, he's putting up some decent numbers in his first year. Yeah, he's thrown more interceptions than touchdowns, but that's given. You have to understand that is given out of a quarterback in his rookie year. Make your mistakes, and it's how you bounce back is how the results are going to be and how he's going to play out the remainder of his contract years. So I'm giving Kenny Pickett a B minus. I'm throwing in Mac Jones in this list out of New England. He's carried this team up, helped carry this team to a playoff spot. Unfortunately, they couldn't execute out there in New England after losing to Buffalo. He's thrown about 65%, 3,000 yards, roughly 14 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. He's on progress. He's making progress. And Pittsburgh, New England is not the same team that they were back with Tom Brady. Bill Belichick is not the same coach that he was back when he was coaching with Tom Brady. And the amount of success you're going to have is the amount of failures you're also going to have. I want to give Mac Jones a C+ effort. He's going to have to step it up a little bit more to get over that hump, to get to that extra level. But Mac Jones is up there. Chicago, Justin Fields, I'm going to give a C-, man. I was a little disappointed. He was out of Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields. He was one of the guys I really expected to kind of elevate himself a little bit more. Now, maybe Chicago's holding him back, but I expect a little bit more out of Justin Fields here. He went only 60% completion, little under 2,500 yards passing, 17 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. Man, he's going to have to figure it out next year. I'm going to put it that way. Determining how Aaron Rodgers and where he's going to go. Detroit ended off the year strong. They have momentum and confidence heading into next season. All right. They want to now look from not only having a winning season and, but to get to a playoff spot. I mean, they were this close, inches away. I wouldn't bank on Minnesota being good every year, because I think a lot of people were surprised how good they were this year. But Justin Fields are going to have to figure something out, or else he's just going to be looked at as an aftermath in the NFL very quickly. New York Jets, Zach Wilson, I'm also giving a D. They started off the year great. Somehow they just stumbled and fell apart. And last but not least, Houston Texans, David Mills. I don't think there's nothing personal against David Mills. He's thrown 61% completion, 3,000 yards. I got to give him a D. 17 touchdowns, 15 interceptions. The biggest question out of Houston, though, is whether or not they made the right choice after beating Indianapolis Colts and giving up the number 1 draft pick of the 2023 NFL draft. And quite frankly, listen, I mentioned this quickly on Monday. He's somewhere. Houston has a few quarterbacks out there. This draft is not a quarterback draft, and I don't think Houston is going to go pick up a quarterback. I think it'll be a long shot. And Chicago's not looking for a quarterback. They got Justin Fields. They're still believing in Justin Fields. And so being number 2, and even if Chicago traded a quarterback, for a number 1 spot, let's say Pittsburgh slid right in there. There's still quarterbacks. There's a few quarterbacks available. If you're Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers does not return and you find yourself halfway down the draft selection in the first round because you almost made it to the playoffs, but you didn't, I'd be worried. But in my opinion, there's probably 4 names that for me really highlight the quarterback position and the top 10 quarterbacks available in the 2023 draft. Bryce Young, who was elected this year, who decided to elect himself, CJ Stroud, Anthony Richardson. Okay. I also like Will Levis. Now, there's Bo Nix, Clayton Tune, Cameron Ward, Jaron Hall available. But those for me are not star caliber. They're not first round worthy picks. As a matter of fact, if you're looking for a quarterback that is looking to pick up to be your number 1 overall selection, I'm thinking I'm going with either Bryce Young right off the bat, and if not, CJ Stroud should be someone in the next fix. And as we get more into the draft, as we get closer, we'll look a little bit into who's available and who we like to be picked where as well. So let's take our last break of the day. Let's come back. Let's wrap up our show, wrap up a strainful show as we get you guys ready for AEW Dynamite tonight. Couple great matches to stay tuned with. So let's come back. Let's end off the show with the bang here. Thank you guys for tuning in and listening to the throw-in here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Alrighty. Kind of lifting the spirits up a little bit. Throughout the break, I was listening to some of the reading some of the reports, also some comments down below, and I think it's important to really reiterate everything that we're talking about this morning in regards to WWE potentially owning. Now, I don't know who this Devi is, but and I would probably like to learn a little bit more about who this person is. If you're listening to the end of this program and want to weigh in, communicate me, DM me on one of my social media pages, please feel free. And I'm open to this conversation to learn more about what can and can't happen. They're mentioning WWE corporate said sold to WWE corporate sold to Saudi Arabia. PIF is considered a good business move. But one day, Vince needs to pass the administration to the right person to who can continue to lead the WWE, which is likely. So, I think as much as news saying, all right, selling WWE corporate, selling the corporate to an industry, I think at the end of the day, you want to find someone who is going to, when you're selling something, you want to find someone who's going to make you the big bucks, right? Saudi Arabia, very invested, very well into the business move of the WWE ever since they unlocked everything the last couple of years. Okay. He goes on by saying these steps can be took by the government selling their bankrupt assets to some company with a good administrative ability who could reform the company, then buying back the company. That's also a good part because the WWE over the last couple of years took a massive hit. And, that was one of the reasons why the WWE decided that they were going to do a deal with Saudi Arabia to make and help bring back some of the money. So maybe on an economical standpoint, this is a great business move. He's also mentioned earlier, even rightful owners could do the same by selling their CO to a bigger CO/GLC without leaving the rightful position, and then buying back once the CO is economically recovered. That is also very true. A lot of great standpoints and a different perspective that I really like. He also finished off by saying earlier, the reality is that as long as Vince is in WWE administrative board, these are not going to happen. Okay, so let me put it this way. There are a lot of things in this standpoint that, yes, there are fear of what could happen when a company buys when someone buys a company, because you don't know what their intentions are. You don't know what they're capable of, and you don't know realistically what they are going to put into the business. But there's a lot more to this story than just saying WWE is no longer owned by Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon you got to remember, Vince McMahon is a very prestigious, very well and educated business person. He's been running this company for years, for decades. I don't think he's going to fold over and just sell, but he's also looking, when he is selling or when it is time for him to actually step away. This is going to be something where he wants the best for the company, and I'm sure he does. And he's also going to want the best for his family. And if that means he needs to sell at a higher cost to recover some financial issues and fix some things that that's been procrastinated over the years, and maybe Saudi Arabia is that answer to, hey, come in the door, take over, this part of the WWE, help us get us back on track because they love WWE so much. We've given you shows throughout the decades. We need help. Help us. And then, maybe buy back but there's also parts of it where, maybe WWE doesn't change. The problem is that at this stage, we are unclear still. One, nothing's been officially sold. No confirmation has indicated that WWE has officially been sold to Saudi Arabia. And once that date happens, we also need to read the fine print, because what part of the company has been sold and what does this mean moving forward? And who owns what? And who's in part of what? I feel like there's also a part of me that feels that there's also an insurance plan behind Saudi Arabia where they like Vince McMahon, regardless of the outcome. So maybe by making a deal with Saudi Arabia keeps Vince McMahon somewhat in the loop of everything. Therefore, if you try to sell it to Disney or you try to sell it to NBC, that they may have contracts and they're probably not willing. They want full coverage. They want full responsibility to WWE. They want Vince McMahon to officially say, all right, I'm done. This is it. I will say, though, that regardless, this is a new era in the WWE that we are yet to be seen. And as fans, as spectating, when you read the vague prints, it says WWE selling, but when you go into details, there's a lot more to know. So, like I said, as much as we learn, as much as we will know about this, we will share and talk about that. On the other nose of wrestling, though, AEW is on TBS at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Maybe that's around the board. Couple great matches. We will hear from Jericho Appreciation Society. Jamie Hayter, Dr. Britt Baker will take on Saraya and Tony Storm. You got Big Ball and Lee Moriarty taking on Jungle Boy and Hook. And then you have, I think, more so of these next three matches are more indefinite. You have Jon Moxley taking on Adam Page, which, in my opinion, this never gets old. I think they elevate each other. I know, for me, this elevates Hangman more so every time he steps in the ring and he faces Jon Moxley. Jon Moxley brings the best out of Hangman. And, so whenever you can see these two men in the ring doing battle, it's destined for great matches. Also, we are destined to see Bryan Danielson taking on Konosuke Shita. Apologize for butchering the name. Always do. Apologize. But I think the main focus point with Bryan Danielson right now is that he's coming up on the number one contender spot to face MJF here next month. And the obligation is that you must win out. You must win every match that is thrown against you from last week moving forward. I'm not very impressed, and I'll probably elaborate more of this feud between Bryan Danielson and MJF. I kind of feel that I think AEW is kind of just throwing opponents at MJF because he doesn't clearly have anybody. I mean, I don't get me wrong. I think this is great that MJF has the AEW World Championship. Right? I think it's great because you can now look down your roster and say, all right, who needs a crack and an opportunity in that spotlight to face MJF? Up until you get to a real storyline or a real, scenario that MJF is going to be stuck in. Like I said, I refer back to Wardlow eventually becoming AEW World Champion and bringing back that story between MJF and Wardlow. But until then, I feel like Bryan Danielson is just inside that mix. And, I don't really think that their promotions last week was great. Their promos were great enough. I actually disliked them. But, we're going to have to settle for this as AEW. And last but not least, the final best out of 7 match, Death Triangle takes on the Elite, and they're over the series. They're tied at 3-3. This comes up best of 7, finalized tonight. I think it's going to be the highlight of AEW as we see who's going to be the best. And in my opinion, I favor the Elite. I would normally not favor the Elite in this storyline, but Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks have had not the greatest ending to the 2022 year. Kind of, you had to kind of move up, and you had a couple moments in Wrestle Kingdom. But now moving forward, come on, I would like to see them get off to a decent start, and that's by winning the match tonight and winning the best of 7 series. So AEW Dynamite tonight. Also, we'll tune in tomorrow. We'll be back at 6 a.m. talking more sports coverage, and all that good stuff. Thank you guys for tuning in to the Throw-In with Justin right here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. We'll see you tomorrow.